Get ready, because today we're going to tell you a truly unsettling story that unfolded in Venezuela.
It really is. This isn't your typical crime story at all.
No, it feels like it stepped right out of a nightmare, kind of blurring the line between, well, a potential malicious act and something that feels chillingly supernatural.
Yeah, the year's 2020 in Venezuela, a country already facing, immense hardship.
Right.
And what makes this story so immediately gripping is that central disturbing question. Are we looking at a tragic death caused by human actions, or did dark forces, maybe witchcraft, play a terrifying role?
It all began when a family's 15-year-old daughter became inexplicably ill.
Just suddenly.
And doctors, with all their training, all their expertise, they were baffled.
Couldn't understand what was causing her rapid decline.
Then this disturbing video surfaced. It went viral.
Yeah, I remember seeing something about that. It showed the daughter, right?
It did. A glimpse of her sitting cross-legged, her behavior just completely bizarre.
Her face was contorted, trembling, and she was visibly suffering from severe malnutrition. It was hard to watch.
Oh, wow. So, in their desperation, after conventional medicine offered basically no answers,
They made a desperate choice. They turned to spiritual healers, mediums.
clinging to any hope, I imagine, any explanation for what was happening.
Exactly. But their hope, well, it was brutally short-lived.
Just 9 days after starting this alternative treatment, the daughter died, mysteriously.
And this is where the really unsettling questions start piling up, isn't it?
Absolutely. What truly happened in those final days? Was this a calculated act of harm, hidden under this veil of the bizarre?
Or was something far more sinister at work, something rooted in, the dark world of magic and witchcraft?
That's the chilling story we're about to unfold for you.
Okay, so to really grasp this, we need a little context about Venezuela.
Good idea.
It's located on the northern edge of South America, Colombia to the west, Brazil south, Guyana to the east.
And the Atlantic and Caribbean to the north.
Right, Spanish is the main language, and the majority religion is Christianity, mostly Roman Catholic.
Venezuela has some, unique aspects too. Many people know it for its incredible success in international beauty pageants.
That's true, they're very successful there. But beyond that, it's also played a huge role globally as a major oil exporter, a founding member of OPEC.
OPEC, the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries. Important group.
Very. At one point, something like 90% of Venezuela's economy was based on oil exports. Astonishing figure.
But things changed, didn't they? The late 20th century brought challenges.
Severe economic challenges, yeah. The 1990s saw a deep financial crisis made worse by, the volatile global oil market.
Led to hyperinflation.
Unbelievable hyperinflation. It reached something like 1.3 million% in 2018.
Million. It's hard to even imagine what that means day to day.
It means the price of basic things skyrocketing almost overnight. Devastating for the population. Poverty, inequality, crime, all rose.
And people left the country.
A large number did, yeah, seeking better opportunities. Interestingly, though, Venezuela has been trying to diversify its economy since then. Oil exports are now closer to 58%. Still significant, but less dominant.
Okay, so against this backdrop, we have the central figure in this tragic story. Naryeli Yaxabel Palmar Gonzalez.
Naryeli. She was born in 2005 in San Isidro, La Guajira State. It used to be called Yare.
A coastal area known for beaches and a port.
Exactly. Naryeli was the younger of two daughters. Her parents, Jose Gomez and Regina Palmar, raised her in a strict Roman Catholic household.
And that faith aspect becomes quite important later, doesn't it?
It really does. So around 2019, 2020, when these events started, Naryeli was about 14 or 15. A high school student at ETC licensed Francisco Aranda.
What was she like?
By all accounts, cheerful, sociable, bright, well-liked, good student. She enjoyed playing kickball. It's like baseball and hanging out with friends.
And she had aspirations.
Yeah, she dreamed of becoming a doctor.
Like many teenagers, she also had some romance in her life.
A little bit. She briefly dated a boy she met at a party in 2019.
But details are scarce.
Very. Name, age, where he lived, all unknown. And crucially, Naryeli never mentioned this relationship to her parents.
Okay. Then another key figure arrives on the scene. Stefany Rodriguez Menses.
Yes, Stefany. 19 years old. She moves into a house just 5 doors down from Naryeli's family.
Where did she come from?
From Charlave in Miranda State, about 97 kilometers away. And she told people she was only planning to stay for a month, just temporarily.
But she and Naryeli became friends quickly, despite the age gap, about 4 years.
They did. Naryeli, maybe wanting an older friend, And Stefany, being new to town, perhaps looking for connections,
So they bonded fast.
very fast. Stefany was visiting Naryeli's house daily, often sleeping over. And Naryeli's mother apparently trusted her.
Even after that supposed month was up, Stefany didn't just disappear.
No, she kept in touch. She'd visit Naryeli on weekends, stay overnight. Seems like the friendship was quite strong.
And it was during this time that Stefany introduced something new into Naryeli's life.
Yes, the religion of Santeria.
Santeria, can you tell us a bit about that?
Sure. It's got a really fascinating history. It basically originated from the forced blending of Yoruba tribal beliefs from West Africa and Roman Catholicism.
During the slave trade.
Exactly. Enslaved Africans were forced to adopt Catholicism, but they cleverly merged their traditional deities, the Orishas, with Catholic saints. It allowed them to continue their own spiritual practices, sort of in secret.
So, what are the core beliefs?
Belief in spirits, a supreme creator god called Olorun, and the Orishas act as intermediaries, kind of like Catholic saints who can grant blessings.
And magic. Sacrifices.
Yes, the practice of magic and sometimes animal sacrifices can also be part of Santeria. It's complex.
And Naryeli showed some interest.
She did. Being a curious teenager, she talked with Stefany about spells, rituals, that sort of thing.
Well, crucially.
Crucially, because of her family's strict Catholic faith, Naryeli kept this interest totally secret. She had no intention of actually converting.
Okay. Then comes December 2019. An incident.
Yes. Stefany was visiting Naryeli. Naryeli tells her mother she's going to the beach with Stefany, back by 4 p.m. Sounds normal, right?
Just two friends heading out.
But during their time together that day, Stefany actually taught Naryeli some Santeria prayers and rituals.
More exposure to these beliefs, even if Naryeli wasn't planning to adopt them.
Right. And then Stefany gave Naryeli a gift, a bracelet.
Presented as a friendship bracelet, seems innocent enough.
On the surface, yes. Naryeli accepted it, started wearing it.
But when they got home, Stefany saw Naryeli's mother.
Briefly, yeah. And there's a small detail mentioned about the girls maybe holding hands or making some kind of symbol as they parted. It's a bit unclear.
But the mother's reaction to the bracelet was immediate.
Immediate and negative. She saw it on Naryeli's wrist and felt deeply uneasy. Told Naryeli to take it off.
Did Naryeli resist?
She did, saying Stefany told her it would protect her.
Protect her from what? So the mother.
Driven by this bad feeling, maybe growing suspicion about Stefany, she took the bracelet herself and threw it away outside.
And warned Naryeli.
Firmly. Don't accept anything else from Stefany. Naryeli didn't go get the bracelet back. And the mother's unease about Stefany's motives just grew.
Okay, fast forward just a few days, around December 24th, 2019.
Naryeli starts experiencing strange, worrying symptoms. Loses her appetite completely. Starts vomiting whenever she tries to eat.
Did she think it was serious?
Initially, no. She thought she just needed rest. Maybe a bug or something.
But it wasn't just a bug.
Far from it. Her condition got worse, fast. She grew weaker, couldn't keep any food down at all. And then, on December 31st, 2019, she collapsed. Unconscious.
Oh my goodness.
Her parents heard a loud thud, rushed in, found her on the floor.
So they rushed her to the hospital, the one she'd been to before.
Yes, and we learn here about her pre-existing conditions. Migraines and asthma.
Right, you mentioned those. And something else.
Yes, a history of syncope. Fainting. She fainted back in 2017, apparently due to exam stress.
Recurring fainting spells, syncope, especially with other weird symptoms, that often needs a closer look medically beyond just stress.
That's a very fair point. But disturbingly, reports suggest the hospital didn't do much for her this time.
Why not?
Possibly overwhelmed, limited resources. A grim reality in Venezuela then. So Naryeli eventually regained consciousness.
And they just sent her home.
Seems so. Returned home with her family, no clear diagnosis, no treatment plan.
Back home, the strange symptoms just continued and got worse.
Worsened, yes. Persistent lack of appetite, forgetfulness, unexplained bruises appearing, wounds too, tremors.
And changes in her actual self.
Disturbing changes, behavior, personality, even her voice changed. And her physical strength seemed to be draining away.
The parents must have been frantic. Did they seek more medical help?
They did. Took her to 2 other hospitals, saw internists, pediatricians.
And any answers?
Still no diagnosis. Blood tests were mostly inconclusive. Except for one thing, elevated neutrophil levels.
Neutrophils.
Yeah.
Those often point towards the body fighting something, like a bacterial infection.
Exactly. That becomes interesting when we think about potential causes later on.
But the doctors at the time,
they apparently attributed her condition mostly to malnourishment. Basically told the parents to just make sure she ate.
which they couldn't do.
No. They tried liquid food, But Naryeli still couldn't keep it down. Utterly tragic.
It was at this point her father started filming her, documenting the symptoms.
Yes, he began recording her decline. And these videos, they captured the horrifying reality.
Why did they shout?
Her body shaking uncontrollably, her hair thinning, her mouth moving silently as if trying to speak but couldn't. Leg spasms, her face looking distorted, and her body becoming increasingly thin, emaciated.
Just heartbreaking. What did he do with the videos?
He showed them to Naryeli's grandfather, desperate for advice, for wisdom.
And the grandfather's reaction?
Seeing those symptoms, knowing medicine had failed, he suggested a different path entirely. Consult a priest.
It's fascinating, isn't it? How different belief systems interpret the same symptoms, especially when facing hardship, maybe limitations in healthcare.
People might lean more towards spiritual explanations for medical mysteries.
Absolutely.
So the priest, he viewed the videos, heard about the failed medical attempts, and reached a chilling conclusion.
Which was?
He believed Naryeli was afflicted by witchcraft, or possibly demonic possession.
Wow. And his recommendation?
A religious exorcism. A drastic step rooted entirely in spiritual belief.
Where would they even do something like that?
They chose a place called the Naryeli Winter Worship Center. It was near the San Julian de Sipi River, not far from their home.
And the family agreed?
In their desperation, yes. They made the urgent decision to take her there, hoping for some kind of spiritual intervention.
Maria Leonza, who is she?
She's a very significant figure in Venezuelan folklore. A legendary mountain goddess, also known as Yare.
A mix of traditions.
Yes, syncretic. Draws from indigenous, Catholic, and African beliefs. Revered as a protector, someone who banishes evil.
And this worship center?
It's considered a sacred place. Shamans, mediums there, are believed to channel Maria Leonza for guidance, for healing.
And it became more popular during the economic crisis?
Its popularity definitely surged then, yeah. People seeking solace, spiritual help, in very uncertain times.
What kind of healing rituals happen there?
It varies. Depends on how severe the case is perceived to be. Practices can include immersion in the river at midnight for cleansing.
Midnight river immersion.
Okay, and sometimes lying on the ground, surrounded by candles, while prayers are said to try and expel evil spirits.
So what was Naryeli's experience like at the center?
Harrowing, I imagine. Her family explained her situation. The healers there quickly diagnosed demonic possession.
And the ritual.
They performed one involving cleansing her in the river right at midnight. A chilling attempt to rid her of this perceived evil.
Did it work?
Sadly, no. The ritual seemed to have a negative effect. Naryeli's condition worsened. She was shaking, felt intensely cold.
And the strange symptoms didn't improve.
No signs of abatement. The family had no choice but to bring her home again. Hopes probably fading fast.
But they didn't give up.
They didn't. They returned to the center on January 11th, 2020, for another ritual, though the specifics aren't clear.
Their desperation must have been immense, just clinging to any possibility.
You can only imagine. But tragedy struck during this second ritual.
What happened?
Naryeli died in her mother's arms.
Oh no! Just awful.
Her death was reported, obviously. Medical examiners got involved to determine the cause.
And what did they find? The official cause of death.
The death certificate listed multiple conditions: sudden cardiac arrest, seed pneumonia, which is a severe form, and malnutrition.
But nothing linking it directly to the rituals.
No definitive cause related to the rituals themselves was cited. Her body was released to the family for burial.
Then something else strange happened after her death.
Yes. Stefany. She arrived at the family's home to offer condolences.
Okay, but what was strange about that?
What shocked the family was how quickly she knew Naryeli had died. They hadn't informed anyone outside their immediate circle yet.
That is odd. How did she find out so fast?
Exactly the question the family started asking. Despite their shock, they politely told her about the funeral arrangements.
But the suspicion was there.
It was definitely planted. Why show up now, immediately after her death, but not visit once during her long, terrible illness?
Good question. So what did they do?
Driven by this growing unease, Naryeli's parents decided to check Stefany's Facebook profile.
And they found something.
They found something that sent a shiver down their spines. A post Stefany made just days before Naryeli died.
What did it say?
It said, "I laugh at the living walk with the dead, they never fail nor I."
I laugh at the living and walk with the dead. They never fail nor lie. Wow, that's chilling, given the context.
Deeply chilling. Coming so soon before Naryeli's death. It deeply disturbed the family.
Connecting it to Stefany's known interest in Santeria.
They started to wonder if her involvement in Naryeli's life had a much darker purpose all along. Why no visits during the illness, but immediate appearance after death?
Okay, so the funeral happens, mourners gather.
And Stefany arrives. But the atmosphere changes the moment she appears.
How so?
Naryeli's relatives, who had been told about the family's suspicions in the Facebook post, reacted with open hostility.
What did they do?
A group, maybe 7 or 8 relatives, surrounded Stefany. Some started filming her with their phones.
And accused her.
Yes, began accusing her directly of causing Naryeli's death through her beliefs, her practices.
How did Stefany react?
Visibly frightened, apparently. Denied everything, insisted she was just Naryeli's friend.
But they pressed her.
Oh, yes. Then one relative confronted her specifically about the post, shouting, "We saw what you post on Facebook."
And that broke her.
It seemed to. She became visibly nervous, couldn't speak clearly. The pressure mounted, the relative anger was escalating, almost turning physical.
And
under this intense pressure, Stefany confessed.
She confessed. To what?
She apologized. And then she revealed her disturbing motive for befriending Naryeli in the first place.
Which was?
Her plan, she said, was to get close to Naryeli because Naryeli was involved with Stefany's own boyfriend.
A love triangle. Jealousy.
Apparently so. And Stefany admitted that instead of, confronting her boyfriend or talking to Naryeli, she decided to harm Naryeli using Santeria witchcraft.
Believing that was the best way to get rid of her rival.
That's what she claimed.
Yeah.
She confessed she moved nearby, befriended Naryeli specifically to learn her habits, get access to her house.
To get personal items. For a curse.
Exactly. Hair, other belongings, things she could use for a ritual.
And she detailed the alleged curse.
She did. Admitted stealing Naryeli's things, taking them back, and performing a ritual based on her Santeria beliefs.
What did the ritual involve? According to her.
Placing Naryeli's items in a jar, burying it in a cemetery known for burying Santeria practitioners, and then, this is grim, grinding bones from that cemetery into a powder.
Grinding bones into powder. Okay, and then what?
She further confessed to secretly putting this bone powder into Naryeli's food, daily for a month, and during those weekend visits.
Believing this witchcraft would cause Naryeli's illness and death.
That was her stated belief and intention, according to her confession.
The family must have been absolutely enraged, their suspicions seemingly confirmed.
Understandably. They believed wholeheartedly that she had used witchcraft to kill their daughter.
So the police were called?
Yes. Stefany was taken in for questioning, and she reportedly gave a detailed confession again about her motives, the jealousy, the alleged curse, the bone powder.
So, case closed. Arrested for murder.
Well, this is where it gets complicated. Legally complicated.
How so?
Venezuela, at that time, lacked specific laws against witchcraft, or against causing harm through, supernatural means.
So even with a confession about intending harm through a curse,
there wasn't really a specific crime on the books that directly fit her actions, as she described them. A huge obstacle for the police.
So what happened to Stefany?
Due to this lack of applicable laws, the police made a very controversial decision. They released her.
Released her after that confession?
Yes. Much to the absolute outrage of Naryeli's family. The legal framework just didn't provide a basis for charges related to witchcraft itself.
Did the police investigation stop there?
Not entirely. Despite releasing Stefany, they did continue looking into things. Their suspicion shifted a bit towards the events at the Maria Lionza Center.
Wondering if something happened during the ritual.
Exactly. They inquired about potential confinement or maybe mistreatment, but both the family and the center vehemently denied anything like that happened.
The center maintained their intentions were pure.
Yes, purely to help Naryeli according to their spiritual beliefs. That was their stance.
So ultimately, no further legal action against anyone.
That's right. The lack of specific laws against witchcraft, plus no concrete evidence of physical harm during the rituals, it left the authorities kind of stuck.
The case must have caused a stir publicly.
It got widespread news coverage, yeah, and sparked intense public debate.
The parents.
All of the above. And many people firmly believed in the witchcraft angle, demanding Stefany be punished somehow. Maybe manslaughter charges were discussed, but it was unclear if laws like stalking even applied effectively.
Just a legal and emotional mess.
Completely. The case seemed to hit a dead end.
Was there any final attempt for justice?
Naryeli's family did make one more appeal. They went to the director of the CICPC.
That's like Venezuela's National Detective Agency.
Essentially, yes. They were hoping for a fresh investigation, a new look at their daughter's death.
But then something else happened, something huge,
Yes, the COVID-19 pandemic hit the world.
and everything else got overshadowed.
Dramatically. Global attention shifted completely. Naryeli's case was tragically pushed aside, largely forgotten by the media as the pandemic became the dominant crisis.
So no further investigation materialized.
It seems not. But despite the lack of official progress, Naryeli's family has reportedly kept pushing, refusing to let her story just fade away.
As we look back on this whole chilling account, it's impossible not to circle back to those different perspectives.
Right. Blame on parents, criticism of healthcare, belief in witchcraft. It's complex.
And it's crucial to remember the parents did seek medical help repeatedly. They were desperate.
Absolutely. And questions also linger about those rituals at the Maria Leonza Center. Was the river cleansing really all that happened?
Or could there have been more forceful interventions that weren't disclosed? The lack of detail leaves room for speculation.
It does. Which brings us to maybe considering some alternative explanations for Naryeli's actual death based on what we do know.
Like her pre-existing conditions, asthma, migraines.
And that history of syncope, the fainting. As we noted, recurring syncope, especially with other symptoms, really warrants a thorough medical check for underlying issues, beyond just stress.
Okay, what else? What about the cursed powder?
Well, putting aside the belief aspect for a moment, let's think physically. Is it plausible that soil and bone fragments from a cemetery could contain bacterial contaminants?
I suppose so. Which might align with those elevated neutrophil levels found in her blood tests, suggesting an infection.
It's a potential link, yeah. And then, this is purely speculative, but could cemetery soil contain toxic substances?
Like heavy metals, mercury, lead, aluminum?
Possibly. If ingested over time, those could certainly cause a range of serious neurological symptoms, couldn't they?
They absolutely could. So that's another angle, though unproven.
And then there's the pneumonia listed on her death certificate. Sea pneumonia, severe.
Could that be linked to the river ritual? Being immersed in cold water, especially when already weakened?
It's not unreasonable to consider a possible link. Pneumonia has many causes, of course. It's not just about cold exposure. But being severely weakened, having pre-existing respiratory issues like asthma.
That kind of shock to the system could certainly increase susceptibility.
It could, especially in someone already so compromised.
So, piecing it all together, the pre-existing conditions, the possible bacterial infection from the powder, the potential toxins, the stress, the malnutrition, the pneumonia perhaps linked to the ritual.
It paints a picture where the exact cause of death is just shrouded in uncertainty. So many contributing factors, possibly overlapping.
And getting definitive answers would require more investigation, like exhumation, forensic analysis.
Likely, yes. But sadly, the COVID-19 pandemic probably severely hampered any chance of that happening in a timely manner, if at all.
So we're left with this story that honestly leaves us with far more questions than answers.
It really does. It forces you to confront this terrifying intersection of belief, sheer desperation, and the haunting search for answers when faced with something utterly unknown.
We invite you, the listener, to just sit with the chilling possibilities we've discussed. Was Naryeli's death solely the result of witchcraft, as Stefany claimed? Was it a devastating medical tragedy unfolding amidst limited resources?
Or a horrifying combination of factors. Physical illness possibly triggered or exacerbated by psychological stress, malnutrition, maybe even poisoning, alongside rituals that went tragically wrong. Or is it something else entirely we haven't even considered?
Thank you for joining us as we recounted this truly perplexing and deeply disturbing story from Venezuela.
It really highlights that enduring human quest for meaning, for answers, especially when faced with the inexplicable and the terrifying.
If you found the story unsettling and want to hear more like it, please do like, share, and subscribe to our channel, Horror Docs. Until next time.